guys don't get close to me. I got a little touch of poison ivy, so, you know.
I can live with that.
All right, call to order. The Rolesville, May 19th, 2020 Town Board regular meeting. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And then, Jackie, if you would, do an invocation.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this season, for the rains. We pray that you will guide and direct us tonight as we address the matters at hand, and we pray that our actions and decisions will be pleasing in your sight. Please guide and direct us. Please keep us in your love and care. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Jackie. All right, well, welcome. Again, we are holding the town board meeting tonight without visitors. I hope it's a lot of people, maybe hundreds, thousands of watching online maybe. So, so welcome all of you that are. I guess, what was it, maybe 10 weeks ago, we really don't know where we would have been tonight. I mean, if you're thinking back then, I mean, we didn't know. We didn't know how bad it's going to be, and I just want to thank the town, the Rolesville citizens, the folks that live here, and the businesses, everybody that really made it work from a standpoint of limiting the spread as much as it did. Could have been a lot worse. And I feel like the small businesses really stepped up and took the punch. You know, small businesses took the brunt of what had to happen, and really hope that now, you know, maybe the governor's orders, if they do happen this week, that things can start getting back normal. But really, for it to get back normal, it's going to still take us being very diligent to not spreading the disease. As you can see in the room here, we'll spread it out pretty good. We need to continue to do that. And I'm urging all citizens in Rolesville to continue to do that. Really, it's, some good things, you know, have been brought up during this virus. I know most people, you know, staying in and all. But I've heard good comments, positive comments about the town, about, you know, the way the town looks, you know, from a standpoint of signage. I know Sheila worked very hard in getting the Wayfair signs, and Paul, the veteran signs, which I think is going up this week. And I think people recognize that, especially when, you know, you got your minds, you know, not as fast as we usually are in the fast-paced world. It's maybe a little bit slower today. You see those things, and I want to appreciate everybody. And, you know, it took more than the ones I mentioned, that take the whole board working together to make things happen like that. And I just want to really say that that I'm proud of this board of working together. You know, we got some things we got to face coming up. You know, the budget is one of them. I'm confident that we'll work together and come up with the best decisions that we need to make. And, you know, during this time that, you know, we have not been able to see each other as much, we have not been able to socialize at all, really. No networking at all, right, Michelle? I know, you know, in some environments, networking is one of the most important things you can do, and you can't network. But I think we've hung together, and I want to appreciate that, and thank you, the board, for supporting not only me but all the Wake County mayors, and also Greg Ford, chairman of the Wake County Board of Commissioners, in some of the things that got us here. So I hope everything continues to work out really well. excited if, about the governor's announcement, if he makes it tomorrow or Thursday, and really looking forward to a lot of other things getting back to normal. But I just want to take time to thank the citizens, all of you out there. Thank you, and also the town board. I thank you guys for what you do. And last but not least, thanks to the staff. And I think everything has happened that need to happen in service-wise during this event. That the staff has really stepped up and got everything done. Now, this compliment is not really for Rolesville staff, but it is for one of our partners, Raleigh. We're partnered with Raleigh in water, and I had a leak last week. Went out, and my whole ditch is full of water, and hadn't rained in 5-6 days. And I said, it ain't normal. So they promptly came out and fixed it, and they've been out 3 times trying to patch the road and fix the yard back. So that's the type of services I think we really really makes it a good place to live, makes Rolesville a good place to live. And from standpoint of trash pickup, from standpoint of roads and water and everything, I think the staff and everybody involved in that need to be commended for that. So thank you. So I just want to take a minute to do that. As you can see on our agenda, the first thing we have is approval. We really not approval anymore. Just review of the agenda board and any additions or changes of items of business to the agenda for consideration. So is there any changes we need to make to the agenda? Anybody have anything? Great. Next item is public is invited to be heard. During this time, we are doing a little bit different. We don't have a way to have the public come in and speak to us face to face. I think we may be able to start doing that a little bit more next month. We'll have to kind of figure out just how many we can have in, those type of things. But the town clerk has been compiling and any type of comments that need to be made at the meeting. So I asked the clerk, is there any public comments to be made? Okay, well, that's good. Maybe they're saving them for in person. That'll be fine too. So if you're out there watching and you really want to have a comment, feel free to save it and come and make it, or either you can send it in to the clerk. Thank you, public, for that. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. 2 items is on there. One calls for a public hearing. Case PR 18-02. I think that one is recommended by the staff to go forward with. Item number 2 is call for public hearing for June 16, 2020, case SP 20-02. And I think that one is also, I believe both of these items is recommended by the staff to hold coming up. So what's the wishes of the board on the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, I got a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Sheila, second. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. It sounded like that was unanimous. Items of business. The first one we have is Rolesville Wake Forest Transit Study Update. I believe somebody from RLS Associates is here to present that. Is it anything to staff? I know Michael, anybody want staff-wise before?
I think today we'll be their presentation at Wake Forest is here at the same exact time. So Ray Boylston is here and up there also. I think we just want to make sure we get an update that you know what we're proposing with the consultant, and then it's going to roll out public consumption soon. So after tonight, it's your opportunity to learn what's going to go out there. So.
Great. Well, I'll turn the floor over to you. If you would, introduce yourself and show us what you have.
Good evening. My name is Ray Boylston. I'm with RLS and Associates. I came before you before at the beginning, kind of an overview of what we're going to do, look at, as far as looking at alternatives for transit and potential application for what transit funds. We've made good progress. We've had very good participation from the project stakeholders. And again, as you can see on the screen, it's, all the key players have been involved. So the study objectives were to come up with 3 potential alternatives for some type of transit service in the Rolesville, Wake Forest area, really eastern from Wake Forest on the Rolesville side, not all of Wake Forest. And it was critical that as we looked at the alternatives that we wanted to. Oh, was that the mic on? Okay. My voice is pretty loud to begin with.
Yeah, I was hearing
Teacher
you.
used to always pick me to play the lead in the school play in elementary school because my voice was a little strong. So another key thing is we wanted to come up with alternatives that would be competitive. It's an application for the Wake Transit Plan Fund, so we need to make sure whatever we came up with met their performance standards. And just overall enhancement for people in terms of options for transit. So what have we done? We've done the demographic analysis. We've gotten feedback from the steering committee. We've looked at the market analysis from the Wake Transit Plan. And I'll just jump into the 3 alternatives. Just as a lead into this one, Rolesville is, I believe population is about 8. Is it 8,000 now? Is that correct?
Yep.
Right around 8. And typically for an all-day fixed route type service, from my experience, typically it's cities that are in the 20,000 range and above. So this is kind of a quasi version of a fixed route. It's actually a connector, and it falls under the Federal Transit Administration's guidelines on commuter type service because it's only running on certain times of the day. And by doing that, you're not bound by federal law to provide 3/4 mile Americans with Disabilities Act paratransit service that's typically another 30 to 40% more in terms of the budget to provide the overall service. But GoWake has service already anyway for demand response trips for seniors and disabled in the area. So this particular alternative is a route that would run early in the morning, short period midday, and late afternoon. And I'll just walk you through with the cursor. This is the town hall where we are now. And so there would be a connection here with the regional route going down Main Street, Young, through Granite Falls, and this area here, I think that just north of here is some low-income housing. So that's got potential for ridership. It would also loop over and go through the senior complex. I think it's Granite Apartments.
The Grand, yes.
The Grand. And then down Rogers Road and come through the intersection. This was really challenging through here because we had to have a turnaround area, and there's just not many opportunities to turn around and have a signal to come back with a safe left turn. But in the Sheets area, there's a turnaround. It actually works out really good because the Wake Forest Loop A and B connection is in this area. And it's a really good traffic signal there that is frequent, and it has good pedestrian safe crossing pedestrian signals. And that's just a zoom in. This would require some working with Sheets to allow the small bus to go through there. I've driven this many times, and it does have ample space. So this is an option in that area. And again, in yellow is the loop stops, and it's got sidewalks on the front of the sheets where you could have a stop and people could walk down the sidewalks to get to the pedestrian signals. The zoom in of the Rolesville area, I kind of walked through that before. How it loops around this particular complex, that might need some further analysis, but I think it could go through the parking lot. We're not talking about a 30 or 40 passenger bus, hopefully a smaller one. And I'll go through this pretty quickly here, but these are the hours proposed: 6:20 to 8:20, 11 to 1, and then 5 to 7. And what that does is this allows opportunities, particularly from the early morning and the afternoon, for people to connect to the 401 Express. There's been desire from the Wake Forest side that people would like to make that connection with the 401X because it has more direct service to the North Wake Tech campus. It's only 6 hours a day. Distance is about 5.5 to 6 miles. I think it's a little closer to 6. Frequency, you'd be able to run it every 21 minutes, one direction.
Can I ask you a question there? What's the requirements of the bus stops? I think it was 4 of them. Is it just a sign, or does it have to be like a little covered area, or what?
Just a sign. You want it to be an area where there's a sidewalk. Typically, transit systems, if they have 10 or more boardings a day at a particular bus stop sign location, then they may consider to put a bench or a shelter. But for a service starting out, I would recommend just kind of seeing how the ridership goes for a while.
I have a question. One of your stops here, if you're coming down Rogers Road and you're turning behind Sheets, coming back around, that stop's on the opposite side of the street.
I saw that too.
The yellow little transit bus,
On the corner.
that's on the other side of the street because you're not even going up that far. You're turning behind Sheets and you're coming back down.
Well, there's a stop up to the northeast corner for the passengers to be able to get off and then walk down the sidewalk in front of the Sheets to get to that stop. So the two yellow dots are the Wake Forest loop stops
Okay.
and not the.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Good question. So we're projecting about 6 riders per revenue hour. I think for a normal fixed route system, well, for example, Wake Forest loop services averaged about 10 passengers per hour, but they've been operating that, I think, for 10 years now. So I think this is reasonable in terms of projected trips. The cost per hour, we had originally thought that it was going to be $100 an hour if Go Raleigh operated it. They revised that and told me that they could operate it for $85 an hour. And that's a fully allocated cost for maintenance, fuel, drivers. The passenger fare proposed in this recommendation would be $1.25, which is the same as Cary and Raleigh. Revenues at the projected ridership would be 11,000. The total cost 125,000. After revenues about 113. The cost per passenger trip would be $12.92. The average, just to put this in perspective, the average cost per trip on the demand response GoWake Access, the van service, is more in the $25 to $25 to $30 per trip. So, was there any questions on before I just keep going? Okay. Service alternative 2. This would be what is known in the transit industry now as a microtransit zone or service. And what that does is that provides dedicated vehicles in this particular alternative to operate only within the boundaries of this area. And I'll talk about some of the advantages of that. So anybody within that defined area can ride. And it would involve some mobility app type device where people could, Wake County and Raleigh are working together right now on access to an app where people, if they had a smartphone, they could do that. If not, they could call and access service. And pay for service is the goal. So this would be Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday 9 to 6. It's about 8,000 revenue hours. Frequency, we would hope, and this is the biggest difference right now between, right now, GoWake Access, if somebody calls to get a trip, they have to call sometimes 48 hours in advance, 24 hours in advance. By having 2 8-9 passenger vans with lifts that are dedicated to the area, they're going to be much more responsive because they're covering the entire county with that service. So they have vans running from here to Raleigh and back to carry all over. So that's really what makes it different and more convenient and more customer driven. And we're projecting $4 or 4 rides per hour, trips per hour.
Question. When they pick people up and they ride the van from Wake Forest and Rolesville and they're taking them into Raleigh, where are they taking them?
You're talking about the current service they're running now?
Yes.
They may be going to the Human Services over there off of Swinberry, Newbern Avenue. A lot of trips go there. They may be going to doctor's appointments.
No, I'm talking about the bus service. That
The 401X service?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They're going to the Wake Tech campus, and they're going to the mall.
The mall to try the.
And then that has connections. It takes them downtown directly to Moore Square Transit Station where they can go anywhere.
That's what I wanted to hear. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
I have a question. On this one, alternative number 2, you said that there would be 2 dedicated buses that would specifically just serve Wake Forest and Rolesville?
Just that microtransit zone, that perimeter.
Okay.
And they're going to be vans. You've probably seen the GoWake vans
Yes.
that are the kind of the purple logo. But I think they seat right around 7 to 9, depending on if they have an accessible rider. This is $45 per hour. And that's a little above with their current rate, but I wanted to make sure that it took into account potential inflationary factors. I think they're currently at 40, but I think for planning purposes, we needed to go higher than that. That would be $2 per one-way trip. Revenues projected would be 63. Annual costs, you can see there. The cost per passenger trip would be $9.25, which was actually less than what we saw in the first alternative and significantly lower than GoWake Access cost per trip currently, where they're serving the whole county.
Okay, I'm sorry. One more question for clarification.
Sure.
And so that bus would only run in that black area. What's outlined in the black?
There'd be 2 vehicles.
Right.
And both of them with lifts, and they would only stay within that zone.
That black.
They could take people to connect
Right.
to the Wake Forest Loop routes, and they could, or from, if Wake Forest person wanted to take the loop and then take one of these vans at a stop to come catch the 401X, they could do that too.
I understand. I'm with you now. Okay.
But they only pick up passengers in that black
Right.
line and then take them to different places. Okay.
And yeah, the thinking is there's already service in Wake Forest that takes you to Walmart, Target, and places like that, and even medical facilities. There would have to be some further discussion with Raleigh and Wake Forest about transfers. so that it might not be too cumbersome for a person to pay the $2 and then pay an addition. Well, the Wake Forest Loop's free, so that would work out on that end. But perhaps there might be a deal with Go Triangle on the fares with the 401X, because you do have to pay for that.
So where is the pickup at for alternate 2?
The pickup for Alt 2 is your curb. It is a curb-to-curb service. Demand response, we call it. But, yeah. Okay. Service alternative 3. And we wouldn't have even put this together as an alternative if I hadn't have, fortunately, I was able to talk to the Southeast account executive for Uber, which they're not real easy to get hold of. So I was pleased to be able to talk to him. And they have shown some interest in what I'm getting ready to go through here. Okay, so this would be the same microtransit zone that you saw before, the map with that area. Uber management is interested in a partnership, and they've been doing this more and more throughout the United States, Uber and Lyft. And typically, we've seen it a lot where you have perhaps a light rail system or a bus rapid transit line, and people get off, but there's no service to get that last mile to their home, and they're using Uber or Lyft to make that last bit of the trip, and the transit agency will subsidize that trip and pay up to $4, typically $4 to $5 of the trip, and anything above and beyond that would be paid by the individual. So Anthony, I talked to him, they're very interested in this. But that contract must be negotiated. People would use the Uber app, but there would be a special code that would limit them only to travel within the microtransit zone, and it would automatically load up the $4 on the trip. But if it went over that, they'd be charged. But with this comes a little different twist, is that you cannot rely on Uber and Lyft to have accessible vehicles for people that are in mobility devices. And so you have to have backup GoWake access vehicle with a lift. And I'm actually recommending, I'm going to talk further with Uber, but for right now, I'm budgeting for the second vehicle as well in case Uber vehicles are not readily available during midday. But at the time that I did this, I had not talked to him, and he has done research and verified that he thinks there's ample supply of Uber drivers in the area based on his looking at the data.
And can't you request with Uber? You can request accessible vehicles, right?
You can, in some areas they have them, I've heard.
Not always
but
reliable.
I think it's not the norm. That may not be so easy to find. Have you had an experience where you're able to get them?
I just have a niece that works for Uber, and she was just telling me how it works and how you can request the different vehicles that you need. Okay. That was in a large metro area, so.
That's where I've heard they're more available. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So these aren't dedicated Uber drivers to our area, they're just if they happen to be in the area? Is that correct?
It could be a combination. Drivers that may be in Raleigh a lot, but they come out here a lot too. Or they could be in Wake Forest and they come to Rolesville or even Wendell and come over here.
But there are none dedicated to it's just like regular Uber?
Just like regular Uber. They're not dedicated, and so that's why I think we need to back it up with some GoWake access vehicles. Okay, so that's recommended Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 9 to 6. Frequency, I mean, you could have a driver, you could call and have a driver within 15, 30 minutes, maybe even quicker. I was at the auto shop 2 weeks ago, and Burlington Mill area, road area, and had one in, I think, 10 or 12 minutes. So let me
That's
back.
is that the biggest advantage over 3, over 2, is the time response? Is that?
The time response is pretty big, yeah. And I think the fact that the Wake Transit Plan funds would pay $4 of that trip, some citizens may want, let's say the average trip is $8 is what I'm averaging, $7 to $8 in the area. It could be less, but average 7 to 8. So they're paying more than alternative 2, but they're giving much more responsive service. So it's trade-off on what the citizens are wanting. So again, you have to have a backup plan as well if somebody does not have a smartphone that they can call in to GoWake access. And these costs are a little bit more because we've got budgeted in here 2 backup vehicles. That could be, depending on operation, over a few months, you may determine that only one's needed. So that could come down. And I'll have further discussions with the Uber representative to get more detail before that's finalized. It's projected that Uber would complete 60% of the non-accessible trips and 40% by GoWake. And it's starting to sound like that may be 80% Uber, so there could be some more savings. And this is just a summary based on what I knew at the time I did this of the cost, the passenger trips per hour, the annual trips. So what are the next steps? Again, as Kelly mentioned, Wake Forest commissioners are receiving this simultaneously. I did an audio version, so they're hearing me over there now. And hopefully, depending on feedback from you and them, to move forward with public input, public participation, and get the public's opinion on which alternative they like the most. And at that time frame, we would come back in some form or fashion to the commissioners and say, based on the findings, this is what you have as a potential application for the Wake Transit Plan funds. And I'll be happy to, if there's any other questions.
So once something is decided upon, what's the timeline? I saw September 2020, that was presentation to look like Campo.
This is a tentative schedule, final approval by the elected officials. This is based on discussions with town staff, Danny and Michael. So you could have final approval potentially by the elected officials July, August, and then submittal, I believe, to TPAC in September 2020 is what the feedback we got from Campo.
Right, so then what's that process look like after that?
Oh, after that, then that would, they would do an analysis, competitively compared to maybe other requests they have. That would, if it goes through that process and it's approved, they would work that into the budget for the following fiscal year. So it would be
21, 22.
Yeah, 21, 22. I should go ahead and tell you that as you well may know, the revenues have dropped, and that's reliant on a 50-cent sales tax. So those revenues, I've heard, have dropped considerably, 20%, somewhere in that range. So the competition for these funds and what they do next and how they address that situation with the drop in funds on what they had on their docket that was going to roll out, things could get delayed.
Sure.
We just don't know yet, but I've heard, when I broached that question with them, they said some things could be delayed. They would continue the processes, but their timeline for implementing certain things may shift.
Sure, thank you.
One last thing I forgot to mention on that first service alternative, the key to keeping the cost down on that is you cannot add more stops than what I laid out on that map. If you go back and look at that map, it has to be limited stops for it to qualify as a commuter route. So I think it's important for y'all going ahead down the road and understanding that clearly, because the more stops you add, that starts getting to be more like a local service that would require ADA paratransit service, where you would probably add $50,000 to the cost of that alternative one, which is, you know, that's not that bad still, but something to think about. Okay. Well, thank you for your time, and was there any other
questions? Well, thank you, Mr. Boylston, for coming. Appreciate it. Just keep us informed as the process go through.
I have a bit of trivia. This kind of interesting, but I don't know if you know this. I have a new neighbor. He houses down from me. He is the Go Triangle new director.
Oh.
Chuck came out from Maryland DOT and was in charge of their rail system out there.
Wow.
And such. And so kudos to Rolesville. That's a pretty good catch for us to get. And so yeah, he's right in our neck of the woods.
That is nice.
So his timeline's going to be aggressive then.
Yeah, so when the bus starts running again, we're gonna take it down somewhere and go.
Yeah.
So,
Good. That is good.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, thank you for coming out.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Okay, y'all have a good evening.
And you be safe. Take care. Okay, next item is our 2021 recommended budget review. And is Amy presenting that, or? Okay.
Make me slap.
Well, the floor is all yours, Mr. Kelly Arnold.
very good. Do you all, I had an observation today. This is purely what, for it's worth. I found watching the monitors a lot easier with those lights off. Do you care, or do you want to keep on going as it is?
I don't know what to do for the video, so
Okay.
without changing, let's,
Video would be fine. I think he has direct feed, but it's up to you all.
So try it and let's see.
Yeah, you want to try it?
Is there popcorn?
That one
It might be something
that one
I
has a
wanna
glare
figure
on
out.
it for me from here, but that one does not.
yeah.
They look better that way.
That way right there?
It is
I think
easy.
it's a lot less glaring
It's easier on the eye.
and easier on the eye.
The video, okay?
It may be something we consider in the future, but I know it's strange, so we might want to look at it. But okay. Mayor, Town Board, Kelly Arnold, Town Manager. I'm here tonight to give you the Town Manager recommended budget. It was sent to you previously in the packet. Tonight, I do have a PowerPoint that I want to go through. And it'd be my preference, if we could, just take a moment and just let me go through this. It may answer some of your questions that you've had since you've had an opportunity to review it. If not, I know you will have questions at the end that we can answer, but I think it'd be preferable to just kind of go through this and then see where we are at the end, if that's all right with you all. So tonight, I think I'm the bearer of positive news. I think I think Rolesville, as the mayor alluded to, is situated in a very good position based upon our current fiscal year, and I think where we're going to emerge out of this in the future. I say that with a few things. One is, if you did notice, just last week, Forbes came out and said that the Raleigh-Durham area is probably going to be one of the most successful metropolitan areas to come out of this, and including, if you read that carefully, including the suburban areas, because of what we have here to offer people as far as quality of life and the densities that we offer. And so I'm invigorated to see how we come out of this. I'm also very happy to tell you that if you looked in our report, your packet, if you look at the April finance report, all our revenues are almost on target. In fact, I think we're at about 90% of where we should be on our revenues. So whether we budgeted conservatively, we will not see the sales tax impact until next month, because there's always a couple months trailing. But the good news is that on property tax and sales tax, we're at or where we should be right now for this fiscal year that we're in. The other thing that I thought was very positive is, if you saw your report in there, that we had 30 building permits issued in April. I went and surveyed the region, our neighboring communities, and we were easily number one for the number of building permits issued in April. Now, there's a couple reasons maybe. One is I think that we do have some very active subdivisions and builders right now in Rolesville, and two, they want to get these ready for the fall creative homes. And really, April is probably your last time you can get in and get a house ready for come September. So there was a good flurry of activity, but we hope that that continues.
But that was spread out throughout the town then? It wasn't kind of
That's
one
right. It was
location?
spread out over, yeah. We can go through that a little bit more, but it's in the report. If you go there, you can see by subdivision. There's been 150 building permits issued just this year, this fiscal year already. We'll see. I'm not certain how this summer will go, but to me, I think we're coming into this next fiscal year positioned in a way that I think we can be positive about and move forward. So with that being said, let's go through the recommended budget for fiscal year 2021. Just a reminder that your efforts that you spent at the end of last year and the first part of this year was to develop a strategic plan. What's really important now is how we implement that plan. And the budget is one of those key documents and items that we do that. And so as we go through this night tonight, you'll see that we've tried to relate budget to the strategic plan. In front of you, you have a new kind of placemat that is going to be there. And we would recommend that it stays in front of you through your time as Rolesville Town Board. Now, you can take it home if you want, but it'd be nice to have in front of you, referred to throughout your time here. It's an easy access, but if it's a front and back, it gives you the plan in place on one side, and then on the other side, our values and our mission and our vision. And so we just wanted to bring that to attention. I think we did a great job of that. And then also in front of you, I think, is a nice document that you can carry with you that is kind of the final one, and we have more of those available, I think, if you need them. Okay, so the budget development, we've had the chance to be in front of you to talk a little bit about the budget, but as I think we talked about on April 21st with you, we start the budget at the turn of the year. We really start looking at where we're going and how it relates to the strategic plan, where we want to go. And so this budget, the budget development is kind of the tale of two budgets. There's the pre-COVID budget process, and then there's in the middle of the COVID process. We're not in the post. We were wondering what the post is going to be like. But when we were in the middle of the start, I can tell you that we felt our budget revenue was going to be robust. Things were going well. We had a higher confidence of bringing personnel and projects to you. We really were kind of excited to see how we felt this next year was going to be a pretty important stepping stone to continuing the growth of the community and continuing to kind of put some pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together of how we are going to develop as an organization and as a town together. Then we had the COVID. And as the mayor and I were talking about, I'm about zoomed out. I don't know if I'll ever be zoomed in again in my life. But between us and most everybody, it seemed like at least every other day there was some conference call or Zoom meeting with somebody on this pandemic, and most all of them related to the economy, which related to the budget. And as we kept on going through those meetings, one after another, it became pretty apparent to all of us as we talked that there was a lot of group thinking out loud going on, but nobody had the answer. And we don't have the answer. We don't know, even though Mayor, 10 weeks ago, we didn't know where we'd be today. I still don't know if we know where we're going to be in the future. So we kind of had to accept that, and we stepped back from our pre-COVID budget, and we spent some time talking about, all right, how do we prepare for post-COVID in this budget? And so we really talked about what are our essential services, what can we afford, what do we need to be doing, and what do we not need to be doing, and set aside for a moment. And so we went through, and the good news is the April 21st document you saw in front of you, we really did not reduce much of our capital program. But what we had to go back and do is look at our operating and kind of dial that back. And so we're not going to have expansion of programming. We're not going to do a few things. We're going to come to you with essentially a zero increase budget, except for a few exceptions that we'll get through tonight. So that's where we left it. We were making budget decisions as late as maybe last week, I think, on a few things. But that's what this budget is that we've kind of dialed back where we were going, and we've given you a budget that I think allows us some opportunity to continue to move forward, but also creates flexibility to make modifications throughout the year if we need to. So just briefly, some real high-level budget highlights. First, on the general fund. The general fund total is $9,528,136. I went back 5 years. That's a 25% increase over the past 5 years. And if you think about, as Ray just said, our population is 8,000. Where do we stand 5 years ago, population-wise? Probably about 25% of that. So if we are moving forward, we're probably moving forward in our budget costs and revenues incrementally as our population grows. Personnel, our most important commodity and our most expensive commodity that we provide to do the service is about 41% of this recommended budget within the general fund. All our personnel are funded by the general fund. Public safety, our most important service, essential service, which includes both police and fire services, consists about 31% of the general fund budget.
That's not part of personnel, that's split out from personnel.
That is part of.
That is part
That
of the
is
40, that is part of the
if you
41.
take police and fire together, all expenses is 31% of the budget. Personnel is separate. All people is 41%. Does that make sense, Jackie?
I'm saying, is that 31% included in the 41%?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need.
Yes.
Thank you.
Also in the general fund is special appropriations. This budget recommends that we continue to build the capital reserves for future projects. I think that has been a meritable idea that you have initiated about 2 budgets ago. It's building towards the future of how we're going to be able to offset some of the expenses associated with our future capital projects that we need. We're moving forward in this budget, as we talked about on April 21st, and trying to make determinations of some important town facilities that we need, including town hall and police department. This year, we'll embark on an effort to identify with you all some key parcel or parcels that you want to pursue to potentially have those facilities located at in the future. Just a reminder, also special appropriations, there's that community group funding. This year we budgeted 8,100. You went through a process, you didn't come to any success, but quite frankly, it's $8,100 still in the budget. So you still have some opportunity if you feel like you're inclined to do something with that. You have that. Your formal process didn't have any results, so there's nothing budgeted for any groups associated with that. But there is money available still in that line item for something if a community group came to you for some effort that you felt was meritable to use. The Capital Projects Fund, this is something that we reviewed with you on April 21st. Nothing has changed in the recommended budgets. Total is almost $2 million. Just remind you, the capital project funds includes all the projects that are funded by street fees, park fees, fees in lieu, which were collected by a developer for a project that needs to be completed as part of a development, and general fund. Projects in the capital projects, just a reminder, and we can go back to that if we want, but just to remind you that it includes the 30% design of the farm athletic complex in there. It includes a purchase of future parkland, and I probably need to call that maybe lands. I still think that we need to probably work on this second access for the farm next year. I've engaged with an adjacent property owner, and I think we have potentially an opportunity to do that. But also, I think we also have the opportunity to look at acquiring some land on Young and Rolesville down by the high school area for a future park site, and we've talked a little bit about that. We have funding in here to conduct a feasibility study on that DOT property off of Young Street and 401 bypass. And then if that feasibility study comes out in a fashion that we feel that site is suitable for development of a town project, then we do have funding set aside for the purchase of that land and buying it from DOT. And just a reminder then, we do have, it's not specifically in this budget, but it's carried over, is that we have funds available to get us through this next year for the design work, the 100% design, the taking it and going out and getting bids, and hopefully have a lap project start in late summer, early fall of 2021. But there are monies associated in this year's budget as carryover from last year to let us get all design work done.
That design work is on what?
That is everything with the 2 grants that were associated with Burlington Mills Extension and the Main Street grant.
So that includes any, I guess, miscellaneous stuff like right-of-way, stuff like that, or?
Maybe not so much specifically because we didn't necessarily know that.
Just have
So
to
we
figure
have,
it out.
we may still have to see where we are at that time and see if we need to do a budget member for that down the line.
But
If there's a
strictly
need.
for design then?
That's right. We've entered an agreement with Stantec for the Burlington Mills design. We have yet to get the scope of the Main Street, so I don't know the price on that yet. So there may be some funding still available that would be left over from those 2 scopes that we could still then use for the balance of the project that we may need.
Yeah. And I guess there is still a possibility that the final piece of Granite Falls can be and design at the same time. Is that,
No, that would not be, it would be generally identified, but not be designed. There's no money in the budget for it, because that's not part of the grant, and we do not have any money for the design of Granite Falls, that leg, in this budget. Since it was not necessarily affiliated with the grant itself. Operational highlights. This is what I call a zero increase operations budget with limited exceptions, and we talked about these. The police department expansion into the adjacent space, they have that on hold through, I think it's the end of June. While you consider this budget, they continue to do work on their design, but the costs associated with the design, the costs associated with any work that goes on to that facility, and the new rent is included in this budget to let them expand into that adjacent space. Also, kind of a really important item that we were recommending is that we continue the police fleet replacement program. That cost is over $750,000. No, $250,000, excuse me, $275,000 for this year. That will then allow kind of a breather for next year. You'll see less money, but it does keep a proper police fleet replacement, 75,000 miles and 4 years for their fleet going. The operational highlights include the next phase of the wayfinding program. So we're ready to roll it out into our parks and greenways now. We do have a pricing also for the monument sign out on 401, renovating that, the existing one. And then we do have some money associated with the school park sign if we're so inclined to potentially rename that or change that down the line. So we do have funding for the wayfinding program. And most importantly, we have funding set aside for the technology that we need to continue. I can kind of put money on the table tonight that every year you're going to see some big dollars spent in technology as we continue to upgrade what we have. We don't have necessarily a plan, but I would say over the next 3 to 4 years, you're going to see money spent on a phone system. You're going to continue seeing computer replacements. You're going to see some new software and those type of improvements for technology. Next year, we're going to have in the budget a server replacement at the police department, and then also what I consider a very key piece is a new financial software that's going to assist us to be able to do many great things with our finances, not only operationally, but then reporting back. And I think that's something you're all going to be excited to see is ultimately when we get that all in place is what are the elements of information we're going to be able to pull financially and be able to do analysis of that's really going to help us make some good decisions. This budget, just as a reminder, your fund policy for reserves is 33% that you want to maintain. This budget recommends at the end that it has a reserve balance of 52% in it. So we do hit we're at or above our internal policy and also our comparable communities that the LGC looks at annually for us.
What does LGC recommend or minimum requirement?
It's at least, I think your fund policies over exceeds that, but then they put us into a group of comparable communities and they run that and see where they are. And it changes every year, I think. And you know approximately what that percentage is?
It's growing slightly every year. It's about 32%.
32% right now. Revenue highlights. I'm sure we'll come back and talk about this a little bit further. This budget recommends that we go 2 cents above revenue neutral or 2 cents below the current 48 cents. So this budget recommends 46 cents per $100 valuation. Revenue neutral is 44 cents compared to the current 48 cents. The 2 cents of the, so 44 to 46, 2 cents is equivalent to $60 per year for a $300,000 value property. I participated on Wednesday in a phone call with the managers group in which we spent about a half hour, each one of us talking about our recommended budgets. And in that conversation, 8 or 9, Kerry wasn't certain what they were doing. Wake County municipalities are going, we're recommending, maybe it's better to say, the managers are bringing a recommended budget revenue neutral or above for many of the similar reasons. Most all of them are to keep up with service demands or to meet existing financial obligations. So for instance, Wake Forest is using some of their revenue neutral to fund their conversion of the fire department, but they're also using some additional funds for like housing, study, and transportation needs. Nightdale is using most all their revenue neutral, and their manager says, we just need it. There may be more specific information, but that's what he just said, generally.
Who is this?
Nightdale. And I have that survey, so if we ever want to get into that more at the end, we can go through that a little bit.
Yeah, Kerry, according to Harold, he said that they probably land somewhere between 33 and 35 cents. Revenue neutral will be 32.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it could be very close, but
Yeah, so they are
he
going to go up.
thinks it'll be between 33 and 35, which is
Got
a
it.
little bit above revenue
Mhm.
neutral. I'm not sure what they're starting with, but
And I have that too, so we can go to it. So for our purposes, the primary purpose of recommending 46 of the 48 was first, I heard some of you saying that was your desire to stay at revenue neutral. Then as we progressed over what I call the COVID budget, I recognized that we were starting to kind of think about, well, let's make sure that we have what we need. And so as I continued that, it felt like that the best number that I could recommend for you was kind of the halfway point, which we would continue to use half the funds. That would create $250,000, the 2 cents for the town, and half that is funded towards that savings for future projects we talked about, and then the other half is in a contingency line item that will allow you to make decisions throughout the budget year if you are so inclined to use that. It is not necessarily identified for a specific project at this point. And so it does, I call it, lets you have some fiscal agility coming out of this period and to be able to address some issues next year or this next fiscal year that you may want to address.
So you're saying the 2 cents represents $500,000?
250,000,
Oh, only 250.
250.
I could have said half was
Yeah,
250.
no,
Okay, so
250, excuse me, yeah. Other revenue highlights, we are recommending the budget estimate is 5% reduction for the local option sales tax. That might be light, I don't know. We get our share from Wake County. Their numbers are higher than that. We're a little bit more optimistic, as this number is equivalent to Wake Forest put in. Throughout this process, I did consult quite a bit with Wake Forest, Wendell, and Nightdale, and Wendell and Wake Forest were very similar in their type of local option sales tax estimate.
what is Wake County thinking?
Well, you just heard Ray, 15 to 20%. Now,
I
their
think 5%.
sales tax goes to different pots, though, Mr. Wilson. They have sales tax that goes towards tourism. They have sales tax that goes towards other places. So there's a greater impact to Wake County, but they are using that number.
But we share in that pot.
The non-tourist, the general local option sales tax.
So
Yes.
that affects us too.
Yes.
yeah, they collect sales tax from the hotels too. And, you know.
That's right.
So nobody's been renting rooms for sure.
No. I'll tell you, 5%, I don't think that's enough. But again, we can discuss it. when we
Yeah,
finish.
yeah, and we touched on that last week, on April 21st, but yeah, that's, I'm not saying I don't have the magic ball on that one.
Super conservative.
Solid waste fee, we're recommending stays the same, even though we will be seeing a recycling cost from our provider, which actually is a direct cost from the end user of our recycling goods, which is Sunoco. Sunoco, I think is the name. Is that right? Sunoco? They are the operating facility down in Raleigh that takes in most all the recycling goods for this region. They are just not getting the product pricing they used to. And so they are increasing, taking that recycling product from all the communities. And for us, it's about $2 a month increase. It's actually a little bit more than that. Just for recycling. Solid waste is going to stay the same. Now, the good news is we had a great collection year of our solid waste funds, because if you remember, this is our second year coming up. We just had our first year of collecting and adding the solid waste fee to our property tax bill. And as a result, our collection rate was almost 98 to 99% for solid waste fee, which is not where we've been in the past. And that's one of the reasons why you did that, is because we didn't have to go chase delinquent bills and such like that. So we actually were able to exceed, as we had the last year before also, our budget estimate. So we have some money set aside that we can use and should use, quite frankly, towards this increase. And that means the taxpayers or the fee users will not see any increase next year. But if recycling continues at the rate it is now, and the rates keep on going up, we're going to have to address this. Some communities are reducing their recycling amount pickup. Some are actually eliminating recycling pickup. And some are just saying it's cheaper to just throw it all away right now. Now, I don't believe that. I don't think that's the right thing, but we're going to get on this issue a little bit sooner next year. I think we're just kind of a little bit against the late of this price increase. And next year I'm going to insist from our carrier that we have this discussion probably come like December, January, so we can have more of a time consideration and conversation, particularly if it's a service level discussion for us, we are wanting to do that versus a fee increase. But this year,
So you're saying there's no state requirement that we have to provide recycling?
I don't know if I'm saying that, but I know that some communities are backing off from that, and there has been a couple of communities in North Carolina that have eliminated and stopped their recycling programs.
Yeah, I thought it was required, but I'm not surprised,
I don't know if anybody at the state's enforcing it necessarily. They're spending a lot of money to try and encourage people to continue, but they're not putting any resources out there from the state to help offset those costs. All other fees and charges are the same, but I did want to remind you that one of the tasks that we talked about, spend some time on this hopefully this summer, is our complete code enforcement fee structure. If you remember, we talked about, we wanted to come back and look at that. So we're going to get that effort started. We've already done a little work on that. We want to come back and report to you. And if you see some reason or need to do fee increases in mid-year, you can. We would just make those adjustments to do a budget amendment. But that's really up to you. But we did not get that effort done in time for this budget. So all other fees and charges are staying the same. Okay, just real briefly, this is a big charts coming up, but we tried to go back and spend some time and make sure that we can show you how we related the projects and the budget to the strategic plan. And this is probably something that I would say would be good for you. So when we get done tonight, you should have this PowerPoint. We'll give it to you. And I think this would be something that you can use and we can use as we continue talking about what are we doing to implement the strategic plan. So for instance, the community connection, goal 1, which was broad mix of arts and culture, we talk about that there is money available in the budget to do post-COVID event opportunities when we know what we can do. The one item I do want to come back at the end of the night is we still are planning a 4th of July. You saw the news today, Raleigh's canceling. If you didn't see that, they went ahead and decided not to do that. Right now, it's my opinion that I think we're going to come into phase 3 about 4th of July. I think that you probably could, and it's up to you all comfort-wise, but I think you can probably do what I call a fireworks show. That means you come out of your house or you go somewhere and you watch it and you leave. There's not going to be an event associated with it. There's a fireworks. I do feel like if we have that capability, this is the year to do it because people are going to want to do it. Now, I want to make sure it's safe and that you're comfortable with that. We have up till mid-June to make a decision on that. The fireworks contractor, that's when we have to do a kind of a go, no-go decision on that. So we need to probably come back, or if you have some input on that tonight, we can talk about. But the money is in the budget for 4th of July. Also, community connection, we did maintain funding for a citizen survey. I do think that's very important to reach out, start doing our survey of our citizens and how are we doing from our level of services and our operations and policy development, and start establishing that baseline. And this would be hopefully then the start of an every other year citizen survey to check in and start watching, are we making the improvements the citizens say they need, based upon, very solid data that are collected in a citizen survey. Planned investment. Mayor, you mentioned one of the things that people are seeing. I've heard during this period of time the comments of how clean the community looks comparatively to some times in the past. And I give a lot of that is because we did sweeping this year of curbs. Our curbs are probably as clean as I've ever seen. There's nothing really growing in them right now. Now, we have money budgeted to come back and do that about quarterly. And I think that's a worthwhile effort to continue trying to see how much effectiveness we have for a street sweeping program that ultimately might lead to even more regularity. But just that one time, I've seen and I've heard good news and remarkable improvement just to our cleanliness of our community. On planned investment, just to pick out a few also, you see grow public safety. We've got the police building expansion in there. Develop, build, maintain community infrastructure, a multitude of programs. We do have the start of the Rogers Roads improvements that we need to look at to make that second exit into Willoughby. We took some fee in lieu funds from the developer on that and did not do that immediately. But now is the time to start designing that. And what I'm going to give you a really quick off script where I'm going with this is that design is going to not only be for that intersection, but then we're going to take it, if we can, from the credit union and the gap of sidewalk there, design that, look at how much that would cost, all the way up to the Heritage East area, and talking about how we can do a better crossing for the Rogers pedestrian crossing at Heritage East right there. And if we do that all right, we can submit that in about a year or so out for another LAP grant project like we are doing for the Main Street. I think it's a good competitive grant. It would include all the elements of a safe crosswalk up for our greenways. I think we can go talk to Wake Forest, if money's going, Wake County, if money's going well, to ask to get into their funds to help us with that, because it's part of their programming. But essentially, look at how we can fill the gap of all along Rogers Road up to the Greenway crossing and get that complete through a LAP grant is the effort. It's funded in here. Continuation of the sidewalk, curb, and gutter repair, stormwater mapping phase 2. That's probably about a 4-year phasing of mapping. About year 3, one of the big policy issues that will be coming to you is we want to start putting together a stormwater plan. And that's going to talk about how are we going to maintain our stormwater systems a little bit more robustly than we have now. And that's going to talk about how we're going to fund that. Right now, we do very little to maintain our stormwater program and our plans. We're going to have all the data. We're going to know what we own. The next question is how are we going to maintain it in the future? Key focus areas, just also in the plan investment, we're going to come to you soon for ADA study. That's hopefully scheduled to come to you in July and get that completed so that we have a ADA transition plan that has been accepted and we can follow. Public Works facility studies in here. Mindful growth. We continue to implement the Main Street Vision Plan. We continue to talk about and build economic development strategic plan implementation in the economic development budget. And then we also, in Goal 12, which is develop the unified coordinated vision for land use, there is significant money in this to continue and finalize the UDO effort and the community transportation plan. And then we just brought to you that small little bike transportation grant that we were going to be submitting. It's like $3,700, but that's in here also if we were successful in getting that grant. Organizational excellence, we'll talk a little bit more about some of these, but this is just a reminder, maintain and increase the town's financial strength, which is getting that software replacement so we can make sure we do that, maintain the reserve and the fund balance, address organizational staffing, we'll get into that in the next slide, prioritize proactive communication with the community, and that's part of the effort of the additional staff we're going to talk about. Goal 16, recruit and retain outstanding personnel. We are proposing a competitive pay plan with 3% pay performance implementation November 2020, the continuation of a strong employee benefits program, and then, as I've talked about in the past with you, a pay increase that we're going to start for starting employees for temporary staff. So
The 3%, is that total or is that a combination of cost of living or what?
the 3%? Yeah, so let me get into it, Mayor. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, if you don't mind, about halfway, we can actually jump down. Compensation. So what we're recommending this year is transitioning out of, we have traditionally had a COLA and a merit. What we're recommending is what we're going to call a performance pay plan. So it's a mix of both. It's going to include the ability of looking at what our competitors are using, and that sometimes is COLA influenced, but also what are they doing in general for merit or for increases to their employees. So we're not saying it's going to be a given number in the COLA, and we're not saying it's going to be a merit. It's going to be a performance, which is more merit-oriented, but the pool money is going to be coming from kind of an ongoing analysis during the budget development of what our communities around us are giving. So 3% is very much in line with most of what communities are doing. Some communities are actually doing 0. There's a couple. Zebulon's doing 4%. Wendell's doing 3%. I have that information. And we felt 3% was a good number. What we kind of fell into is we have this new program, evaluation program, we're starting next month. And we'd already kind of targeted 1st of November to have it be part of the pay plan would go into effect. And so the good news is we're having a little delay because this is one of those items I'm glad we have a delay because I want to make sure we can afford it when we get closer. And we'll talk about how we're going to kind of go through this no-go or go decision-making matrix as we implement things. But right now, this is budgeted at a kind of a pool of 3% for all employees effective November 1st, 2020.
Is that up to 3%?
Excuse me?
Is that up to 3%?
I can't hear you.
Yes, up to 3%. Yes.
It's up
Yes.
to 3%.
Yes,
So
up
it's
to
not
3%.
necessarily 3%.
It's not necessarily 3%. Maximum 3, though.
The budget is 3 for the
That's
whole
right.
organization.
So
Does
looking
that include the manager?
In the budget, we have budgeted all employees at the 3% in this budget.
And also us?
Hang on.
All right.
Wait, I
More
have
to
a
come.
question though, when Ronnie finishes. And I like your question, Ronnie. But, okay, so the additional personnel.
Yep.
This is what the goal is, to get them in here before November?
No,
Okay,
let me go through the additional personnel.
okay.
Additional personnel we're recommending are 3 full-time employees. The first one's a customer support specialist. In the recommended budget, it is recommended it would start August 1st. Again, though, if we see revenues are coming in at such a point that we're not comfortable starting that recruitment in July, we're going to stop and hold it. The planner one, that position as described is to assist the new front lobby. It's going to kind of be the primary assistant to the organization for public traffic, coming in and going, and also phone calling and assisting finance and admin with various things. But it'll be a lot of ways the frontline person that you walk in, you'll see and get to know that person really well.
That's for the planner one?
No, for the customer service
Oh,
specialist,
okay.
I'm sorry. Planner one is part of the recommendation, came out of the study last year. It's a needed position. We have that starting January 1 in the budget. Assistant to the town manager is one that I think will be very beneficial to the organization and to what we're trying to accomplish. This position will be responsible for being centralized for all the communication. We've kind of grappled with that for a little bit, and I'm ready now to say we need a dedicated staff person to do all of it, or at least take the lead on it and make sure that we know who that is and how they're doing it. They're also going to be the person that's going to lend assistance to project management of our projects. We put a lot of stuff on our Parks and Rec director when he took over Public Works, including a lot of the projects that are out of there. I want this person to take the lead on some of those, make sure those projects get done, and assist on those also. And then we have a lot of wide variety of things that sometimes get done, doesn't get done, including grants, being aggressive on grant opportunities, see what are available out there, but just real general support to the organization. That is funded January 1st also to start in this budget.
So you feel comfortable you can find somebody with a skill set of all 3
No.
skills?
But I'm going to try.
Title that.
Okay, so I
But
have
it
a
is
question.
diverse a little bit. in
Yeah,
skill set.
it's probably somebody who's going to come in with some experience,
And one of them?
one of them,
Project
and has the ability to do all of them. It's probably going to be more of a generalist than a specialist. I'm hoping that they have some good communication background now, experience in communications. Project management would be important to have. You can learn some of that. I think you need to have some communication skills for this position.
Okay, I have a question for you. Assistant to the town manager. Assistant to the town manager or an assistant town manager?
Assistant two.
So, okay, so,
Yeah, I think for everybody, explain the difference between those two.
Okay.
Just what is assistant manager and what's a assistant to it?
I know assistant manager is not the same as the assistant to the town manager.
That's right. So assistant town manager is a higher level position, sometimes called a deputy town manager. Some organizations, deputy city manager, typically has, for this level position in this organization, would probably have anywhere from 7 to 10 years of experience. And the ability to act as town manager in town manager's absence. Assistant to the town manager is a lower level position with less experience, but has the ability to grow and be groomed into a assistant town manager over time. So it's not the assistant, but it's the assistant too. So it's a lower level cost, It's somebody probably has 3 to 5 years experience, and has the capability of really working hard and doing some good things for us. So that's really the
Yeah. I guess two things else to help clear up. It doesn't have reports to them, like assistant town manager would. Doesn't have anybody reporting to them per se.
assistant town manager may not also.
Right. Some cases are.
Some cases in a large organization they are.
Yeah.
In this organization, I would never recommend having a direct report to an assistant town. It's too small.
So they don't have the managerial experience. And also, they would not, if you out of town, they're not in charge. Somebody
Probably
else.
not. I don't think this person initially would have enough experience, or I would have to make sure I have a high level of confidence in an individual. So probably not.
Kelly, in honesty, I'm struggling with this position. Are you, is this a want or a need?
I think it's going to be a very important need if we want to continue to grow and be able to do more effective communications and to project manage our projects better. Right now, I don't think the speed that our projects are going okay, but there's such a basket of projects that we're not keeping up as much. This person's going to be able to assist that. I think it's time.
I just feel like that a lot of this, like for instance, the project manager is responsibility of the town planner.
No, this is for project. This is for.
Project
Like Amy did.
construction.
I'm thinking development.
Amy,
Okay, I'm
like-
sorry. Okay,
like, for
okay,
example,
This is
Amy did
construction. This is,
grandfather.
this is the internal construction, capital plan.
Okay, all right.
So right now, somebody has to do, either Amy has to do it, or JG has to do it for, like JG
Or me.
doing it. Or you have to do it, yeah.
But they're not planning, right? Because I was
Not-
going
not-
down that
not
road
planning.
too.
See,
Not for
that's-
planning.
Not
That's my
planning.
concern, because
Okay,
when the last
okay.
town manager left, and I'm
Can
not
you,
talking about
I
Charles.
don't think anybody can really hear
No,
you.
we can't.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Thank you.
I hate this thing. My concern is the last time a town manager left, I just felt that the town was scrambling. Everybody's wearing so many hats, and when somebody leaves, it puts us at a disadvantage.
Right.
So my thought is, even with Public Works, why can't we not just get a Public Works? I know it's expensive. I know it's a cost to it. Get a Public Works person instead of having somebody wear so many hats, because it does put us at a disadvantage.
So, two reasons. One is we tried getting a public works director and we failed. And a good public works director will probably you'll probably pay that person as much as you're paying me to some level, maybe even an engineer kind of background. So I don't think we can afford it personally. And I don't think we have that big of effort right now to be able to afford that. Secondly, we could go with a communications only person, but I don't think that's what we need. We don't have enough to be able to have a very specific communications person. So again, a generalist has the ability to do it, has the ability to take on more of those roles, and grow and be able to take on more responsibility over time. But we're probably not either a deputy or an assistant manager yet, and or a public works. I really wanted the public works.
I
when
mean,
got here.
I take Charles Penny, for example. When he came here, we knew it was temporary. It was just an interim. But somebody, again, I shouldn't have said his name, but I'm just saying, somebody with that type of experience who may be retired or getting ready to retire, who can come in on a part-time basis, because I just really think that we just put so much on staff now, and to keep piling it on, it really does not, in the long term, it can have a very detrimental effect on the town. I mean, we're finally moving forward. Something like this can derail us or just slow us down.
The way I
Especially with town manager too, because if you're gone, you step away for vacation, who's taking over your role? Is that Amy? So Amy already has a list of what she's doing as a financial director. Am I saying that right? Finance director?
Right.
So she already has a role. So why not start preparing somebody else? I'm not saying you're leaving
right.
because you're staying here
Right.
till you're like 100.
Right.
But I'm just saying as an example, just to start preparing ourselves and not just because
I
anybody
think that's
can
what this position allows you to do. It just doesn't bring the upfront costs of that person in now. I don't think we might be able to afford a person, but I don't think we're ready for one yet as an assistant town manager in this size of organization, my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I see it as us going into real world projects now. I feel like the years past we're just kind of rolling. We're like, so-and-so can pick this up, so-and-so can pick this up. Now you're going to have like a central person for real projects. We actually have it coming up, and we have a lot of them. So I would see this person as a central person where everybody could get a hold of that person. You know, they'd be in charge of that. And they're kind of just a project manager with an oversight, you know, that has an idea of everything that's going on. Instead of just go to this person for that, go to this person for that. They kind of get an idea of what's
That's
going on.
in the new role that you're referring to.
Yes.
But with the title of project manager.
Yeah, they would have a
I'm not
project
just
manager
talking about
responsibility.
project manager,
Right.
though. Just like with HR. I always thought we were looking for somebody who's going to be an HR director, not an analyst. So I'm just saying all these titles sometimes confuse me.
I don't think we can afford all
And
of those kind of salaries and
And
experience.
I get that.
Yeah.
You know, not somebody, if you want somebody with that type of experience, I know it's going to cost money. But I'm just saying, I just don't feel like we're preparing ourselves for that position for somebody else.
For that position.
And not for somebody who's already here, who already has a title. I'm saying I think it works now, but I just don't think that's, but I've seen what happened when I first came here. And
If-
everybody was wearing so many hats, and you didn't want to ask anybody to do anything extra because they were, what was the saying? What were they always saying? We do a lot to be so small, or what have you.
That's right.
But now we're not, we're growing.
Right.
But it sounds to me like this position is taking some of that off of other people's plates and putting it on, this is my job, so you don't have to do it, you don't have to do it, you don't have to do it. This one person, it's
Right.
their job.
Yeah, that's what.
That's the purpose.
I don't see
And the
it that way,
purpose
but
to let
okay.
them grow. And in 3 years from now, my prediction will be that person's either going to leave or we're going to be faced, do we need an assistant? And are they the right person? And if they're the right person, then it's part of the succession plan. And you've built a good person that can come in and be what you just said, is somebody who has knowledge of the organization, can step in my shoes as needed. Right now, we can't afford that position.
And
Maybe-
I know it comes down to money, but I'm just saying we should make sure, I just hope that we're preparing ourselves for it, because I'm telling you, Kelly, it was a nightmare for me to see all of the chaos. And I do feel it was chaos. So I just don't want Rolesville to do that again. That's
Right.
all I'm saying.
I understand.
I just think the title is very confusing. It's a title I'm not familiar with, and I've never seen that. That doesn't mean or say
Right,
anything.
right.
But if you're truly looking for a communications project manager person, I think you need to state that. Because if the few of us that are sitting in this room tonight and we're struggling with the title,
But
I think the public will too.
I want to assure you that the position out there in the world, government world, this is the right title.
It is the right title.
Yeah, because, so for instance, Wendell, town manager's been there 1 year. Last year, he got an assistant to the town manager, assistant two, same thing. That person's in charge of communications and projects. And so I said, wow, and this person had 10 years of experience in Morrisville, and she wanted to get more broader experience in the town manager role. So she moved over and took the assistant two position, and she's going like gangbusters in Wendell right now, doing all their social media, doing everything communication-wise, and taking over project management. So now, am I trying to emulate that? Probably. But that's the kind of person you're looking for, who's willing to bring some experience to us and be able to bring some of these skills that we need, that can pick up these multiple things and take them off other people to be able to get them done.
I hear you. It's taking you 15 minutes for us to get it, though.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is the messaging that may go out to the public, it may come across as that is an assistant town manager. That's all I'm saying.
That's right, and I understand that. And that is one of the intricacies of working and having a small organization, is the titles and what they do and such like that. Most organizations, a pretty normal organization to get things, particularly in an organization where you need to really pick up pieces that are not getting done. An assistant two really does that, and it allows them to be part of succession planning, and allows them to transition, if they are successful, to the next step, which would be an assistant town manager.
Yeah, I think if you look at these
these 3 check marks here, they're all, one day will be a person in each one of them. It'd be 3 people.
Yeah.
But, you know, we don't have, I feel comfortable, we don't need a full-time communications person right now. We don't need a full-time, what would that person do 40 hours a week right now? We may not need a full-time project manager. We might, though. May need that one full-time, maybe closer, but, and then, you know, the one that does the grant writing and all that kind of stuff, the more administrative stuff. Because I really think what I kind of see this as being is, it's roles that people are doing in the staff that is not a full-time job, and somebody's picking them up and doing them. Like you mentioned here, the LAP grant program, somebody picked that up and did it. The managing of Granite Falls Boulevard, Amy did that. You know, it's filling those, what we call gaps. And, but I think eventually, you know, you'll have somebody probably when we get 100 people on staff, probably one of them will be communications full-time.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is such an important piece.
And
You've
this
all
role,
expressed that way, yes.
the way it's described here, may go away. Now, you know, I was kind of thinking like Sheila, you know, is it a better title that we can have that's less confusing? But you're saying in the industry or in the business environment, this one is better for posting and communicating.
For a journalist who has municipal experience, that has some experience in all these elements, this is the right position. Or if it isn't, they may come in and have some strengths in something, but they'll take on those additional roles pretty easily because they're qualified.
Right.
And they recognize it is a good step towards the town manager. And so this is at one time in my life, I was an assistant to the town manager or city manager. And this is a kind of the natural progression of people who ultimately want to be a city or town manager.
Yeah. I think, you know, I was kind of leery a little bit when I first read it and talked to a few of you guys, but I see the need, Jackie. I really do. I mean, if we're going to continue to do all this program stuff we want to do and grow, I see the need in it. And you know, you only budgeting half a salary for the first year here, so you know, for full salary, that's a pretty good amount that you should be able to get a pretty good person in there. And that's my thinking is, if you do this, we need to get a dyno person in there, somebody that's really going to do a good job at all those things. And so I was kind of concerned about trying to do that, but you know, if this is just a 6-month salary, then I could see that, you know, it's not a bad salary then.
No, it isn't. It's a recognized salary in the municipal league survey, so we picked it up out of the survey. It came in our classification. Did we do this? Did we include this in classification plan last year?
I think,
Part of the survey work? I don't think it was part of the classification work
I
last
think
year.
to help us, you know, to move on and to further discussion, you know, we don't have to make a decision tonight. I think it'd be helpful for us if you kind of send us those examples
Yep.
that you know, the other municipalities
Yeah.
that's doing this, kind of send us an example. And they may not be doing the exact same thing, because they may
Right.
already have a communications person or something, right? So kind of what those, get a feel of what,
Yes.
you know, what you're talking about there.
Yep.
Because it is kind of new to us.
And I do think it's very evident, especially for folks who have been on this board for a while, that there have been gaps. We've talked about those gaps. So we did that kind of staffing study with planning. So I mentioned this again. To me, there's a necessity for a staffing study
That's right.
beyond planning, because then this gets addressed for
Right.
the 3-year, 5-year, 15, 25-year look.
Right.
And so then when we come to this, we just whip out that study to
Right.
say, this is what this is based on. So
Right.
I do think it's helpful to do that, and it's been proposed a few times. So I think it's a good idea to expand that.
Yeah, I think the staffing study could say, you know, 5 years now, that communications coordinator needs to be a communications full-time person, you know. So I know what she's talking about, and I think
I think that's something that, let's look at maybe. What she's saying is, when you look at the org chart, I think what she's saying, when you look at the org chart, what should it look like in 5 years so we can plan for it?
Right.
What would a chart 5 years from now look like that don't have gaps in it?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So that's,
And that's what I'm saying. We need to,
I haven't found that person yet that can do that, but I understand what you're saying.
and change, this coronavirus was changed if we did last year, probably change it. So,
Right.
we know that. It's not going to be.
But it's the big scary term, process improvement. They do staffing studies. There's process improvement professionals, lean,
Right.
yes, that do that. I'm sure they're looking for work.
Yep. And I'd want somebody who knows government.
Yes, probably someone who does know government or knows someone who doesn't.
Right.
Know someone who does.
Right. Right.
But no, I see the gaps. This has been expressed over and over, so we're not questioning that.
Right.
I think everyone's doing a fine job. I'm not discrediting that. I just hate the sudden stops. So this would really help. That's that type of study. So I just came and described it because not only was I a new commissioner, it just seemed like a lot of things didn't make sense. But then once you had gotten new management in here who had a lot of experience, it started to be sorted out somewhat. And then when you came, you definitely sorted out, gave your opinions, did what was best. And I think that's great. And so I think Rolesville is evolving, but I would just hate to see that setback. That's all.
I understand.
You're doing a good job.
No, I understand. But I also know what we can afford.
Right, and I know it comes down to dollars,
right,
and I
right,
definitely
right,
understand
right.
that.
Okay. And the other good news is both these positions, all these positions start in the future. And what I was going to get to at the end was every month we're going to have a conversation of whether we want to go forward on these. So even if I'll get you some information on this position further, but doesn't mean that come October, November, we're in a place or feel comfortable to continue with it because of whatever reasons. We don't have to do it. That's part of the privilege of the budget. So, next line item is part-time evidence specialist. We're proposing a part-time evidence specialist over the police department to help us with all the evidence. Right now, we have a police officer spending about 50% of their time just doing evidence. Bringing in somebody, a civilian, who can do that for us, take that off, that puts a half-time police officer more on the street than what they're doing right now, and takes it off of a law enforcement officer and puts it into a civilian role who knows how to make sure that we have evidence held and kept for a long period of time that we need to access. And then we also have money.
Is that a hard skill set to find, or is that
Yeah, it's
is
going to
that
be
more of a
experience.
myth?
It's going to be somebody that's got some experience. And Chief thinks that he might be able to pull on somebody who's probably close to retirement or is retired in law enforcement that has already done that.
They don't want to work full-time?
That's right.
That's what I was thinking about town manager. But okay. That's good.
Is
Up
there,
to 3 additional seasonals for the Parks and Public Works Division also.
hold on a second, Kelly. Hold on, excuse me. Is there an amount for the evidence specialist?
There is.
I see 18 to 20 hours a week. Is it by that?
Yeah,
I saw it somewhere.
Yeah, on page 5, all the rest are listed out. It's just not listed in here.
Salary and benefits is about 25,000.
5,000.
Thank you.
What page is that on, Amy?
Some of it's in there, I have it in the backup.
Oh,
And then up to 3 additional seasonal employees for the Public Works Division. So that would be supplementing more mowing, more right-of-way mowing, so that the permanent crews can also work with them, but also can be, you can have, starting to have sets of crews instead of one crew. You can start doing 2 crews working ball fields, right-of-ways, just keeping up better on the mowing. And so adding 3 additional seasonals would be very helpful for them.
You have a bullet in here about reclassifying the public works employee.
Yeah, and I didn't put that on my, this, but also then we're recommending putting in a reclassifying one of the existing public works employees to a lead public works, so they would have the ability to supervise when Isaac's not there and supervise a team also. So then now we're starting to build more supervision within that group also.
Because currently Isaac is still a supervisor, right?
He is the only supervisor.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah, the lead won't have anybody reporting to him directly then, other than just overall leading the group.
Backup.
The lead will lead, when Isaac's not on site, the lead will be the supervisor and will supervise a team also out in the field. Whoever that lead is assigned to work with, that'll be the lead. He'll be the supervisor of that team.
Is he in the process of learning how to become, like a director? Isaac,
Isaac?
yes.
Isaac has taken a lot more responsibility on, so yes, I think he is getting closer to, I think he's a public works supervisor right now.
Superintendent.
Title. He's getting close to actually, the better title would be not a supervisor, but actually it wouldn't be a director, manager, probably be the better title. Because director means they report strictly to the town manager. So a manager, which would be more responsibility, even more so.
So
But
that's good, so there's somebody in that role now that's
he's learning.
looking to move forward.
That's
so
right. He's taking on more responsibility. And that's a change over the last 2 years. He was just a public works employee.
So that was my point there. Okay.
Yeah, where I come from in an organization is to give you everything, hopefully to succeed and grow in your position. Training, opportunity, and when you hit the top of the ceiling of an organization and there may not be anywhere to grow, then the question is, what are you going to do? And if they want to go somewhere else, sometimes that's okay, because they may have a better opportunity. And that gives you the infusion of new blood, too, to the organization. But you want them to be able to grow, and if they're great, you want to be able to hopefully keep them for a long period of time, that can stay here and be a beneficial employee for a long period of time, and have the appropriate title, proper responsibilities, and proper salary as a result. Okay, employee benefits. This year, we're recommending changing to North Carolina League of Municipalities health insurance plan. Right now, we use a individual broker who goes out for us and looks at plans and comes back and said, here's what we recommend. I had not been a part of something like that for years. And my experience is you are paying a high premium for a broker, and you're paying even more premium not being able to be flexible with your group, and you're at the whims of the private health care insurance. And so I've kind of been pushing and prodding, and this year we took a little time, and we went back out, and we looked to see if there's any self-insured pools that we could be a part of, and we were kind of having difficulty with our size group to find that. And then we came back around and found that the League of Municipalities, who we looked at 5 years ago, 5 or 7 years ago or something like that, 5 years ago, did not have the same pricing and or the same program. And now their program is significantly better. And they have a program that is situated for an employee group that's in the 5,000 to 20,000 group, the number of employees, for 25 to 100 group that we would be a part of. And that group has 75 other municipalities participating. And what the benefit of that is that We're now in a like pool. We're not with just some random private group that's rating us that we have no control over, but we're part of a similar type of group, municipal employees. We have the ability to also have our rate structure be evaluated based upon our experience, which is part of self-insured pooling. And that way, then, if you have a good year, you get some reward out of that. If you have a bad year, you may feel a little bit more the next year, but they actually, then, the great thing about the municipal league program, they have ability that if a claim gets out above $100,000 or so, then it goes into the next level of insurance and doesn't count against your experience. So if you have a catastrophic event with an employee, that only so much of that counts towards your experience, and then the rest is done by the overrider or a secondary insurance policy that they carry. So also what we saw was that their policy, their coverage for employees was better. For instance, their pharmaceuticals were half the price. Their blood testing was near nothing compared to United Health. And what we felt when the broker came back with the United Health renewal this year, it was about 2.5% increase, but they had modified within the plan some significant items to put that on the back of the employee. So the cost would have been an extra burden to the employee for those services. And what this allows us is a better plan at 5% increase, allows us to be a part of a like group and probably control our expenses a lot more in the future. So we're recommending a change. We think this is going to be well received by the employee group. In fact, we're ready to start going to, if this goes well tonight, we're ready to start into our open enrollment period with them because they need to get going on it also.
When is their open enrollment?
When? Like soon.
Thanks.
We're a little late,
Oh,
but that's okay. They're accommodating us.
okay.
So we're very pleased at the result of this, and we're ready to roll that out. And we think the employees are going to be very pleased with this. We are not. There's going to be some reductions also for some of the groups. So like family and employee plus children will actually go down for employees. Single, we're going to still pay full coverage. And then what's also kind of interesting about this program is they have a wellness program. And in that, it's a program where they have standardized what they want the employee to do to make sure that they're hitting wellness checks. So pre-cancer checks annually if they're required, or any of those. And if you do all those, you're good. If you don't, and you don't do them in time, or you choose not to, there's actually going to be a penalty to the employee the next year onto their premiums. And it seems to be working quite well for most all municipalities that participate in this.
So you half your slides yet?
Yes, we're getting close. Sorry. Thank you for reminding me. You got me off track, or somebody did. No. The final thing is the accelerated retirement system contribution increase. They're making nothing on their investments, so that this is going to be a continuation. We have the budget, the increase for retirement program this year. My question one day will be for all of us in this plan is when is the employer going to insist participants start paying more into this? Nobody is yet, but pretty soon I think that day is coming because the rates are becoming more and more expensive for the employer to provide this program. Nobody's going there yet. I'm waiting for that, but somewhere down the line that's going to happen, I have a feeling. Okay, important dates. Just to remind you that we do have this set up for the public hearing on June 2nd. We also have to do the economic development expenditure, and it's our recommended that recommendation that after the public hearing, if you're prepared and ready, you adopt the budget, but you just a reminder, you cannot do it any later than July 1st. So on June 2nd, we will have the public hearing on here, and once you get completed with that, if you're done and ready, you may adopt it on June 2nd. Okay, ready? This might be the piece that you've been waiting for. Final thoughts. So some of you looked very acutely at the town board line item of what you are paid. And right now, that total amount is $50,875. In the budget that you adopted for this fiscal year, it's a $53,000 number, right? So some of you have properly asked me, wait, how did that happen? Well, how that happened was, as Amy and I went back and tried to figure this out, you all got and have received in the past the cost of living adjustment. What we did for the budget entirely last year, as one of the cells in the plan, you know, the Excel plan that we build the budget on, we had every line item in the salary, including, remember last year you implemented the classification plan, which was a minimum of 5% increase on top of for all employees. You did not get that. Only employees did. But the budget that you adopted did include it. So the number was wrong last year. The right number should have been $50,875. Hence, in the budget as of today, the recommended budget does not have any increase for you. One of the things you need to think about is, what is that for you? I have never been in a community before where the town board sits and talks about it and makes that decision publicly. Sometimes here, I understand, it just gets put in the budget, or it's a cost of living adjustment. But unfortunately, tonight, you're gonna have to kind of talk about that. What do you think you want? And such. So if you were to follow the theory of what we're doing for the employees, your rate could be 3% effective November 1st. And we would add that and make that change to the budget. But that is not in the budget right now.
So what was in the budget last year? Was there a difference?
$53,000 of some sort.
And was that different from the year? And that was for 1920?
That was because we
wrong.
miscalculated it, and it shouldn't have been that high.
Should not have been.
That's right.
Spreadsheet error.
Because you did not get the board did not get the 5% increase for the classification of the pay plan that the employees got. But
We weren't supposed to get it.
so,
You're saying we were not supposed to get
no,
it.
you did not get it.
I'm not
But
saying
we
give-
budgeted it inadvertently.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No. But
No,
you're
we
saying
didn't
weren't-
get it and we're not supposed to.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, or you could have.
No,
We just
we didn't.
said we didn't do it.
Gotcha. I'm sure that extra $5 would look really nice in my gas tank now.
Get you a few more gallons.
Yeah, exactly.
Need some thoughts in the Chamber of Commerce right now. The budget has the recommend budget, because I had no guidance, so this is really your bailiwick, is 18,000. You have received from them a request for 30,000. I have not had any further communication with anybody on that further, so that may be something you need to talk about.
Yeah, I think in previous years, I want to say maybe last year or maybe year before, we had a meeting with them,
We did?
like before a town meeting.
I think we would have this year, but it's coronavirus thing.
Right, exactly. But
but
I
if
think
you-
it's helpful to get some type of insights into what that increase
Yeah.
entails, because I'm sure they have some things that they are planning for that, but we just don't know that.
But they can't really meet with us even on a Zoom or something, can they, David?
Well, if we notice it, they could. And make it such. I'll let David answer.
That's right. We could have a virtual meeting that would be a special meeting with that as the item for the agenda with the appropriate notice if that was what the board wanted to do.
that may be the only way to really do it if you want all of us to hear why, you know.
Yeah, I need like a tangible list of showing what benefits the town's going to get from what the increase is. Like,
Yeah.
what?
And
the
I'm
reason
sure,
for it.
I'm sure Rachel could set it up and could, you know, monitor into her.
And I
meeting.
did talk with her earlier, and she said that would be fine if we wanted to do that, and she would like to bring her whole board in to do that. So it would be the whole board presenting like they did last time. So I think that makes sense.
Do you want to try and accomplish that before you adopt the budget? Or that means it'll be the next week?
Or we would do a budget.
You've got a line item in the budget for 18 now,
Yes, sir.
same as we did last year. Okay, so we're talking about another 12.
Could we do it later and do a budget amendment if we couldn't get it done that quickly?
Sure.
I,
You
I
absolutely
think
can.
you're right. I think that's what we
Yeah,
need to
instead
do.
of rushing it, because
Okay.
everybody may not be available.
Might be helpful just for her as part of the public comment to come during the public
Yeah.
comment hearing on the budget and at least provide you that information at that point. What you do with it during the public hearing, you may choose to say, well, let's wait to have that, but I think it would be beneficial for her to respond in advance of the budget personally, so you have at least the information in front of you in case you want to act upon it or not. So do you want me to communicate to her? There's an interest in meeting, probably not in the next 2 weeks, but if you have further information, would you please provide it before the public hearing?
Yeah.
Sure.
That sounds good.
I think that
Sure.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. July
And just
4th?
tell her at this point in time, it probably would be a amendment adjustment if it does go up more than what's in there now.
Okay, what's that look for?
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm trying to figure out what do you, say that again?
He was
I
just
need-
saying it'd be a budget amendment if we decided, because we wouldn't probably be able
Oh,
to
I
get it
see.
in time for
I
the
see,
budget.
gotcha, I wasn't quite
But
tracking.
I think what we're saying is we'll probably stick with 18 in the budget.
And then make an amendment
Talk
if
to
we-
them, and if you know,
Got
if
it.
we need to, we'll do a budget amendment
Got it.
quickly
Yeah.
afterwards, whatever.
It's not essentially done when the budget's adopted, if that's what you do. Okay, got it. July 4th, any questions on that, or do you want to kind of see where we go with that for the next couple weeks, or is
I
anybody?
do have a question about that. So what would we do on July 4th?
Just at 9-something, shoot fireworks off.
Okay, so I think that's what a couple of the other municipalities are doing as well.
Wake
Wake
Forest is doing it,
Yeah.
Wake Forest is doing, so Kip and I both we've talked to each other, and we both agree that it makes some sense at this time. Nightdale is thinking about canceling. Zebulon is moving forward with theirs potentially if the baseball team will pay for it. And Raleigh canceled, and then throughout the whole state, it's all over the board, but most are canceling.
Okay, so
Most
they're
are canceled.
canceling and they're recording so that people can watch it live on TV. We have that option as well, correct?
I don't know. I don't want to say that.
So I'm going to be a little different about this one. We had a year where we didn't have fireworks. We fought to get it back, and I feel like at least we should just put on a display.
No, I'm not
Regardless.
saying not to do the display. I'm saying to do the display, but also to have it recorded
So,
people can watch
like a
it
live event.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you could. Yeah, I think.
I don't
think,
mean somebody standing there like you and me doing
Right.
Facebook Live.
Yeah.
I mean like doing
I think
it
that's a
live.
good option, because I think there are a lot of people that would want the event,
Right.
Yeah.
but will not come out
Right.
because of their comfort level.
Gary, let's talk.
So you just record
Let's
it.
talk, Gary. Do what you're doing July 4th. Okay, we'll explore that.
We invite them to a free fireworks show.
Yeah, bring your camera.
But so far, you're good with going forward
So
until.
it sounds like, I mean, you know, we don't have to make a decision tonight, but it sounds like
Right.
you're in
Right.
favor of going forward with it. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we can figure it out and be safe about it. I'm sure, and if it's something changes before then, I know we can change
I
things too.
think,
But I just don't want to.
you know, I think it's a possibility that we'll have a lot more people we usually do if these other people cancel. And I'm not sure if Wake Forest is 100% yet, because
No,
I've
no,
kind of heard
they're-
different stories
Oh,
over
they
there.
are.
They are going to have it?
But they always do the day before. They do theirs the night
They do it on
before.
the 3rd.
Yeah, they do theirs on the 3rd, we do ours on the 4th.
Right.
So, just make sure that the police department and all can safely handle the
Yeah, I
traffic.
think we may have to try and kind of say no public gathering on public space. We may have to kind of try and figure out how to barrier the park. And then, so that, yeah, but I don't know how else, right now my imagination doesn't think too far out how you can keep it non-congregating and try and enforce it. And that would not make a good event, and therefore we might as well cancel it. So we should protect our property we own and not encourage it, I think. But then outside that,
Well, if you
people
look for
hopefully
it,
be adults.
it's still done at the baseball fields, right?
Yeah,
Over in that
yeah,
vicinity?
And people get that field right there beside Pete Smith. They get in that field, and people, of course, where I live in Wall Creek, we just sit in the front yard and look at it. So, it's selfishly, I'd like to see it. But
I just think, yeah, we should definitely do it, as we move further along and, see what happens with
Okay.
what's going on. But just videotape it for those. I don't watch them myself.
I do think we have to still be mindful, though. We don't know
Right.
from all of
That's
this
right.
opening what's going to happen.
Exactly
So
right.
Everything still has to be
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
based on that.
But if you're going to have it.
Sheila's right. I mean, this is a day by day and week by
Right.
week thing.
Well, June
I
9th,
thought we were going to cancel it, in all honesty. But since we're not, and if it's still going to happen, I was just wondering about all of the events that lead up to the fireworks that evening.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we weren't doing that.
No, we'd cancel all that. That
So
wouldn't,
just for the
no.
fireworks
Just a
itself,
display.
and,
Be no food or anything.
No.
right, just
No
shoot the
kid stuff,
fireworks off and
Kip and I have termed it
videotape it.
blow and go.
Okay.
All right, what's your
Let
last
off and go,
bullet up
yeah.
there?
All right, what's the last thing you got there?
Just that we're going to do a much more in-depth conversation every month. Amy's creating a monthly review that's going to have metrics, and we're going to come back and say, this would be the month that we need to make sure that we're all comfortable, that we're hitting our revenue metrics. You're ready to do project X, Y, or hire this person, or anything that costs money. So that's really monthly. The second meeting of the month, I'm going to ask that we have an agenda item that has a financial review for it, and that we spend some time talking about how we're doing on the budget.
Well, I do have one other question.
Yeah, now we're ready.
The fire department.
Yes.
I was getting
So
ready to ask a
what's
question.
happening with that?
What's happening with that? So
What's
this
happening with that percentage?
this budget
When is it
this
expected
bu-
to be paid off?
this budget maintains the same funding as it has been. 8 cents for general purposes, 2 cents towards the ladder truck debt. I think there's about 2, maybe 3 years left on the ladder truck debt. So there is no modifications in this budget for the fire department.
That's what the 12% transfer is for, all the.
Yes. Hmm. Is it 12 cents?
Well, so it's currently 10 cents.
Right.
We will do an adjustment
Oh.
for revenue neutral.
Thank you.
So it will actually be a little bit less than 10 cents after that adjustment, but it's essentially the same funding that they have now.
It's not, I don't think 12 cents is right, April.
The 12% was on the chart.
Oh,
To 12%.
yeah, right, that's right.
Can you say that again? That was Greek to me, completely.
So currently, they receive 10 cents, which is made up of 3 different components.
Right.
But the total is 10 cents. But with, just like the town's current 48 cents, it had to be recalculated for revenue neutral, right, to 44. So we've done the same thing for the fire department's 10 cents. And when you recalculate that for revenue neutral, it's $9 and some change.
Gotcha.
I mean, not $9, 9 point something cents, right? So even though we'll keep calling it the 10 cents, I think, because we've done it for so long, the reality is it's not quite 10
10
cents. 'cause it's been
cents, gotcha.
adjusted.
I got you.
So this is the, even though there's nothing in the budget, I think this is the year for continued conversation on fire station locations and what we're doing with future fire stations. It also may transition to what are we going to do as a town, potentially in operations. but there's no money set aside. That's more of a policy level discussion and setting up for future budgets potentially.
And it's something that we have to address because our municipalities around us are taking their fire departments under their wings. That used to be their rural fire departments, their volunteer fire departments are now becoming their municipal fire departments, which means that their full-time people get benefits. We will lose the people that we have trained to these other fire departments if we don't do something and don't do it, and we've got to do it soon. Wake Forest, their group goes under their arm July the 1st. And it's expensive to, I mean, when you hire a firefighter and get that firefighter equipped and trained, you spent $30-some thousand on it. And then off he or she goes to another fire department because they can offer benefits that we can't. It's a discussion that's got to be undertaken sooner than later.
Okay, and with that, we have the police department, and we need to be thinking about the same thing in regards to them and their salaries compared to the neighboring communities or municipalities.
Spoke with
Because-
Orlando again yesterday, and he did
That have
confirm
left.
that we were talking about something not related, but anyway, that he has lost 2 officers recently.
To a municipality that's paying more money,
Yeah, it's something we've got to think about.
so, I mean, I know we have the fire department, but we have to make sure we take care of what we have now.
Oh, we need to
Exactly
recruit
right.
outside of the
Exactly
county.
right.
Oh, we need to expand where we're recruiting and
Yeah.
stop recruiting from
Yeah.
the same pool.
Can I ask one question about the fire department again? Amy, you said that that's adjusted to revenue neutral. That's at the 44 and not the 46?
Right, it's adjusted to the same as the 44 cents.
Okay.
Because if you go above that revenue neutral, that's additional pennies, which they wouldn't necessarily have a share of,
Got it, okay,
to make it proportional.
okay.
Yeah. I want to give this board something to think about too, because when, I remember 3 years ago when I ran for an election, I said I didn't want to ever increase tax rates, okay? One of the most eye-opening things I learned tonight was when I asked Kelly what the 2 cents difference were between 48 and 46 cents. And it's only $250,000. Now, I mentioned last month that we're in a time where we've got things in this budget that are wants and things that are budgets that are needs. And we have to determine what's a want and what's a need. And when I look at the difference being only $250,000 if we went to 44 cents, and then we would truly be revenue neutral, right, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay. And then when I look on page 41 of this budget, and I see future land park, $500,000. Okay. Future land park at this time, with the atmosphere we're in, is a want. It is not a need. We could cut that in half to 250, and we could have a revenue neutral budget.
If I may, Mr. Wilson,
Please.
that is actually a park improvement fee funded project, not general
It's
fund.
restricted.
It is from the restricted funds from the park improvement fund.
Okay.
So the 51,620, so that would be all those that are funded by the park improvement fee
Yes.
that came from developers. So it's the Greenway, it's the athletic complex design, the Millbridge Park review, the future land, parkland. Those are all projected to be bought or used by the park improvement fee.
Okay, then I stand corrected. I would love to find a way to cut 250 from this budget.
Well,
but we
let
can
me
do
ask
that.
a
But,
question.
if that's, but that's what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Kelly, you had said that none of the fees were changed. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Correct.
So if some of those fees, like, I'm thinking of the fees, I'm new at all this, y'all keep all that in mind, so I don't really know. But some of the fees that developers have to pay,
Yes.
if their fees are increased, would that put a dent in this, so maybe we didn't have to raise it for 2 cents?
Yeah.
Is that money used, would it go in that pot?
Yes.
And when's the last time their fees were changed?
So last year, we did a modification on the street fees. We actually reduced them for multifamily because we had a one-size-fits-all fee for the street fees instead of kind of a unit residential versus multifamily. So we actually reduced the fee for multifamily to make it more equitable. I think that's the only time I know of.
But I think if I hear her correctly, she's not asking about the restricted fees, but the fees that will make a difference in the general budget.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In other words, the zoning fees, the review
sorry.
fees, and all those types
Oh,
of
when's
fees.
the last time we looked at all those?
Wasn't that part of what you said
Right.
you
Yeah.
didn't get to?
I think that's where we're talking about doing a user fee review
Right.
over this next year. That's going to take some time, first of all, but also, if you look at our major sources of revenue, once you get past the property tax and the sales tax, you would be hard pressed to raise another $250,000 from fees.
Those fees, yeah.
And at one time, we looked at them, we needed to be competitive with our municipalities. That's one of the reasons we changed the apartment things and the multifamily, because we had a one-size-fits-all, and they wouldn't come here. And we need to be careful before we change any of those fees. I know Home Depot and Lowe's are doing wonderful right now. They are turning it, because people are staying at home and they're doing projects.
And eating.
Yeah, but other companies, such as the company that bought the Stock Building Supply, who sell directly to builders, are in a period of layoffs because someone in their organization predicted it was either a 30% or a 70% decrease in new home sales on the East Coast this year for the second half of the year. If the information I got was correct, it's either 30% or 70% decrease projection in new home starts because of this economy. And let me tell you, it's you see the news. It's sad out there to see people with children standing in line for food.
With the extra 2 cents up, does that take into consideration the increase in salaries? Because now, I know you said we're at about 90% in collections, right? So that won't affect.
No, the 2 cents are directly in two line items: future projects
Right.
and contingency to be used towards future projects or something that you need through this year. That's only where that money, that 250,000, has been designated in line items.
Was that contingency just put in here because of COVID, or why was it just added this year? Because I didn't see it in here.
That's right, it was.
So has the town incurred expenses during COVID, or is that taken into consideration long?
Some, but we also can make submittals if they're eligible expenses. So for instance, technology, we bought some additional computers. Amy's been putting together that. Our costs are fairly minimal compared to a lot of municipalities, but what Wake County got was a direct allocation from the federal government. They've made a call to municipalities if there's associated expenses with this event, let them know, and then we'll get some reimbursement back for that. So it's thousands of dollars, it's not hundreds of thousands of dollars, the impacted organization that are eligible. We didn't really do a premium pay. We didn't have any overtime due to most normal emergencies.
So if there was a second wave, as we've heard,
Uh-huh.
there could possibly be. So with the additions that you have purchased right now, do you, I know that day-to-day everything changes. Do you foresee any additional needs at that time that you haven't already taken care of this go-round?
Yeah, Amy's brought up one. We're gonna do a lot more intense cleaning. So for instance, like when the playground opens next week, we're gonna have to figure out what a cleaning plan for that. Cleaning of facilities, so we're probably gonna be spending more money on cleaning that we have not incurred before. That's probably the biggest one that we have.
And that would come out of that contingency money.
Potentially. Haven't put that kind of thought through, but that could.
Let me ask you this. So you had said something, Amy, about the majority of property taxes is collected at what time of the year? The second half or the beginning?
November.
Most of it comes in, around November, December, when the mortgage companies make their payments.
Okay, so would anything be impacted with those who are, what is that word? What is that word when you're, oh my gosh, when you ask your mortgage company to defer payments? So the deferments, okay, yes, with that, and people are not putting into
Does that
their.
include the escrow?
Yes, that's gonna affect your collections, correct?
I don't think so, because
doesn't.
the bank will still pay. They may have to go after.
Yeah, I was gonna
Owner.
say, I've been
Oh,
working on
I should ask you
forbearances
that,
all
yeah,
week.
earlier today, yeah,
I've been working
okay.
on forbearances. No, it's still collected. I mean, it's still, the bank will still cover it.
Okay.
But yeah, they'll have to catch it up
So
later.
then you'll just be short on your escrow.
You won't be
going-
short in
going
the
into
end
next year.
because the bank will cover it. But like Kelly was saying, if the customer does not pay the bank back, then the bank would go after the customer.
Okay, so that's what I'm
But
saying.
the
So we'll
obligation would be met.
It will, yes, this year.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, because someone had brought that up to me yesterday, and I was just a little curious about that,
So-
how that would impact us.
So Kelly, with your knowledge of our financial situation of contingencies and fund balances and, our history of operating under budget type thing, how comfortable would you be moving forward if we took contingency out of 130?
We took what? I couldn't hear you.
Took that 130 out, the contingency.
The contingency, how comfortable I'd be? I'd be comfortable. I think that it may lose some flexibility. We may have to do some hard decisions but that's what it would be. I kind of look at it as not spending it and using it for something in the future. I didn't necessarily recommend putting it all in savings for a project. That might have been a wiser choice, because that is a need. That is an absolute need. What I was trying to do is give us some flexibility, though, to make sure that we had that money, that we could make amendments if we needed to without.
Yeah. And I think,
significant changes.
I think listening to Jackie and listening to April, they feel like it has to be a need. And, contingency, I'm not sure, like you just said, is that a real need or not,
And I think that's debatable, because when I look at the budget and I see sales and services is only 2% of our budget, but that's sales tax, right, Amy?
No, sir, that is,
Sales and services.
On page 23.
sales and services are
16.
things like facility rental. That's a lot of your Parks and Rec
Parks and
revenue.
Rec.
All right, when I look at the general fund revenues pie chart on page 16, where is sales tax revenue?
Sales tax is the vast majority of that taxes and licenses pie.
Goodness, 16%. Okay, we need to leave it 130 in there,
Yeah.
because I can tell you,
Especially with that.
I think you've got, Kelly, I think you've got a good budget here, but I think the 5%
It's low.
Yeah.
is low. I think you better leave it 130, we're gonna need it.
So I wanted to bring up the 2 cents tax thing, or the 2 pennies. We keep going back from 48 and 44 and all this. I just wanted to I tried to simplify it for myself, so I wanted to try to explain it better. It probably won't come out like that, but I'll try. I have a family of 6.
King.
So everything, yeah. A family of 6 I base things on, okay? The biggest thing you could base things on is a meal. I mean, that costs a lot of money to take everybody out to eat and everything else. If you erase from your mind completely right now the COVID epidemic, and we just went back to, we were originally at 48 cents for our property tax. Wake County came in and said, hey, your house is worth more now. So automatically, if my house is worth more, I'm probably going to pay a little bit more for that value. Dropping it down to 44 cents makes it neutral, makes it what you were paying before. That's basically what you're saying to do there. If you go to 46 cents, so we said every penny is $125,000 that it brings in. I have an average house in Rolesville, and that would basically cost me 15 cents a day if we went 2 cents more. 15 cents a day, $5 a month, $55 a year. So $55 a year, that's one night out with all 6 people eating, no soft drinks. That's too expensive.
Where's that?
Everybody's getting water, but that's $55 a year.
It's actually
That you're at.
$60.
$60. I pulled real-time numbers on my house value. If you went to the 48 cents, which is, what we were at already beforehand, that's 2 meals out in 1 year for a family of 6 that you're adding to your taxes. So I don't want everybody to look at this and go, wow, my taxes are going way up. I mean, you're talking $110 for a year for one household. And the reason why I bring that up is everybody will sit around town and come to events and everything else and say, I really like this event. I wish we had more of this. They'll look and say, I love the park idea. When is that going to come about? Or I wish Rolesville had this. So if we go back to dropping our rate back down, we're really not helping ourselves out in the future. If you get rid of all the COVID stuff in your mind right now, you have to look at the future. Where is all this money going to come from? You drop it back down to 44 cents to be neutral again. We're going to have to come back in another year and say, if you would like these parks or if you'd like more services, we're going to have more revenue coming in. So that's how I see it right now. I just wanted to put real numbers to that. $55 a year, like I said, for a regular household to go to 46, and $110 a year to go to stay at 48 cents where we were at. So I just wanted to put that in perspective.
So in addition to this 2 cent, and what else is being added to our property tax this year? The garbage, which will probably come out to be how much a year?
It's the same, no increase.
No increase, it was just like it was last year.
$22.
44 times 6.
But it adds to, I know what you're saying. It's a yearly amount added to your,
I'm just trying
yes.
to get
yeah.
information in my head. so I can-
$22 times 12,
So-
is $440,
So that's an additional $440?
Yeah.
That's already been.
But that was there last
which
year.
you've been paying all along.
We paid that last year.
Yeah.
Did we pay that last year?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we paid the whole year?
Yes.
How did we pay the whole year, or did we pay
It was
half
in our
year?
taxes last year.
I'm just trying to get a number
it all went
on average
Right.
about how much extra
didn't
somebody's
see
gonna have to come up with, and this, I'm just getting, I
according-
like information.
It's gonna be a little bit more
April,
than what Paul
according to
said,
this, if they got a
because the values have gone
$300,000
up.
house, it's $60.
Yeah, they've got to come up with $5 more a month if they have a $300,000 tax assessed value house.
It's $60.
That's not exactly
Yeah.
true, because the values of the house went up a little bit too. So you're basing it
Yeah,
on an old value and new value.
yeah, I'm just basing it on,
Okay.
like Paul said, a
Value.
$300,000 house.
Right.
They're going to have to come up with $5 more a month.
Right.
Okay, but let me just say again, because some people, their property went up a lot.
Yeah.
So it is gonna be more, but that's just a smaller group, I hope, I'm not sure. But it's still gonna go up more than that average, but if you're taking it as an average based on 300,000,
Right.
that's fine. But some houses have gone up, so they are gonna see a little bit more of a crunch in their pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, the average in Rolesville was 13%
That's what-
increase.
I'm just trying to figure out, okay, what's this gonna look like, and what are Rolesvillians, how it's gonna affect us as a whole?
I just think like Paul, you can't go back and then say, oh, no, we need more and
Oh,
go
yeah,
up again.
no, I
Because
agree.
when we did it a couple of years ago, which was my first time ever participating in raising taxes, I literally had people call and say, thank God it's about time Rolesville started doing that. Now, I'm not saying they were embracing paying more taxes, but they were embracing the move that we were moving
Because
forward.
we're moving forward to the
Moving
things
forward.
that we need and
Yes.
want.
And I could see, and I also saw, and I might be wrong on this, but it written in the newspaper as town this is going to drop your taxes by 1 penny. Well, they're not really doing that.
No.
They're just dropping some of it off.
But that town
Not to get
manager,
them
that
down
town
to-
manager said that.
But I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, so you could say it two different ways. You can either say Rolesville's raising your taxes by 2 cents, or you could say Rolesville's dropping your thing by 2 cents. So which is it? You know, I see it as we need money for things that are already in play, that people already want, that the community's already said they need. So if they need ball fields to expand, and that brings in revenue for the town, I mean, I think that makes sense. If we're taking money in just to put it in a bank somewhere and do nothing with, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
That's right.
So that's how I see it.
Just recap, sounds like, if I'm listening, April, Michelle, Jackie, Paul is supporting the budget as is. Sheila, I didn't really hear you.
At 46.
At 46.
At 46.
I didn't really hear you
At least
say
46.
one way or the other.
Oh, I don't object. I don't object. I was over here looking at my tax bill, sorry. I just didn't know they did it in advance versus arrears, but that's interesting. We get the property tax in arrears, but anyway. No, I don't have any objection to the 46. I think that makes sense. I do think it looks short-sighted to lower it back to revenue neutral and then come back in a couple of years and say, oh, we messed up. We
Right.
need way more money now.
All right, let's move forward then to the next step. When will it be where the public can go on the website and see it? Is that
It's on there now.
on there now? Good. So I recommend anybody, you know, y'all have the public go out there and look at it, so they're be ready for the public hearing. Sounds like we've got one unfinished business on the official increase.
Yes, that's
So-
very important.
So I'll put it out there, you know, I'm okay if we don't do one under the environment we are.
I'm good.
I feel like if we do one, it should be no more than the staff. And, you know, we shouldn't be raising ours more than the staff and everybody else. So I would say those are the limits, from 0 to 3. But
That's right.
y'all kind of, let me know what y'all think.
Like I said, there's $5 more in my tank. Hey, but I do have to talk to you tomorrow about what we talked about earlier with the fire department. We can talk about it later.
So what do you think?
I'm good with nothing.
I think it's consensus that we leave it like it is.
Right. Yeah, I don't have an objection to that.
Okay.
Can you fix that number,
Yes.
please?
We'll
'Cause
make
that
sure
looks
that the
very-
budget has something that explains why we missed it last year.
And also 0 for this year, if I'm hearing correctly.
I got you.
Are y'all good with that? I
Yeah.
know I said that loud.
Was it any more unfinished business you need for the budget?
No.
Any final comments from the board, directions or comments? Appreciate that. That was really good. You know, I know, I can tell Amy, thank you.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I did have one quick question.
Well, that's,
Elections. Jackie and I were talking about this. Okay, so doesn't every town pay to have polls set up in their towns?
Yes.
Is that what that was?
uh-huh.
Okay, so did I not see one for this year?
We have no local.
Okay.
So it'd be all national or county.
Oh, so then they would pay for it, which is
Yes.
what you said. Okay,
Yes.
all right, just one
We don't have anybody on the ballot. We don't have a bond, anything on the ballot.
Good.
Good question. Appreciate it. I know Amy put a lot of work in it, and everybody else put a lot of work.
Right.
Good budget you presented us.
Sorry it got
yeah.
long.
Yeah. We'll get Amy back doing it next year, I think. Take that off. But good
Kelly.
budget, good hard work. I would recommend commissioners to kind of review it the next few weeks and be ready for the public hearing that's coming up on it. And with that, if you don't have any more comments on the budget?
I only
Lauren?
have one, and I think this has probably been conveyed, but I do think the communication to the public is very important, that messaging and understanding the whole revenue neutral. We need to make sure that we're clear on that. And this girl who didn't check her property tax, seeing that change, because they're gonna think, whoa, it really went up. So anyway. I
So
just
what
think
we'll
the
do,
messaging's
we'll do is, Amy and I just briefly, we'll make sure we post, the budget's in the packet, we'll make sure we post it, announce the public hearing. We'll make sure to spread the PowerPoints in there. And then if you see something that's lacking, or let me know, and we can make sure whatever we can to describe it further. I know I got really jealous this last 2 weeks because, just an aside, and I don't want his job, so I'm not really that jealous. But I am now the PIO of Rolesville during the COVID, and for the last 2 weeks, the EOC PIOs have been working on a Wake County budget. And every night, we're working on town manager's budget presentation. I'm sitting going, there's quality right there. There's the PIO for Roseville. But anyway, just as next year, if we have that one position, expect balloons and whistles and all kinds of things.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So,
Sounds great.
thank you.
Paul, do you have the motion? One of
Yeah.
you have the motion?
I got it.
All right.
All right. I, Commissioner Vilga, vote that the board recess to closed session for the following purposes. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4, to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of businesses in the town, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the town board in negotiations.
I second the motion.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll go into closed session. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for watching.